Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Waters Above, and we have a lot to cover since these Ethereum ETFs were officially approved yesterday. So let's just jump straight into today's video. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, Numerology, and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow our community. And with that being said, let's take the clear pill. And as mentioned moments ago, the SEC has approved these Ether ETFs, and we'll be getting back to that shortly. But for now, I want to start off today's video with a quick recap of my last video that was released on May 16th, titled Investing Wisdom, Never Let Them Distract You. And right around the 24-minute mark during that video's decode, I mentioned to watch out for the date of May 19th, since it not only had a 68 date numerology, but it had plenty of other connections, and this 68 is the war code. I brought up the fact that it was also 36 days after the Iran drone strike on Israel, and that 36 is the 3 6s, 666. And the one very esoteric connection that I noticed during that decode was the fact that it was actually connected to the Iran drone strike on April 13th, 2024, by 104th day of the year to, let me show you, the date of May 19th being 140th day, as well as April 13th being the 262 days left in the year, and May 19th being the 226 days left in the year, effectively making these two sets of numbers anagrams of each other. We have the 1414262 So this was already starting out to have plenty of connections, but what really sealed the deal on my confidence that something would happen on this date tied to war and the war narrative was the fact that if you took from this particular date of May 19th and tied it to the day that Israel declared war, which was on October 7th of 2023, it was 226 days leading to this day of May 19th, the day that leaves 226 days left in the year, another war connection. And then I even connected this date of May 19th back to February 24th of 2022, which was the day of the Russia-Ukraine invasion. And you can see 2 years, 2 months, 26 days, another 226 code. This is massive. And as you can see, the double-digit date numerology of 68, that's your war code. And that was where that really started here on my channel, talking a lot about this number 68 and how it's tied specifically to war. Earlier, I mentioned this code for this date, and World War I, for instance, was July 28th. And I'll go through this all very quickly with you guys. July 28th of 1914, and you could see that was a 68 double-digit date numerology. This is World War I. Now let's go over to World War II, which was September 1st of 1939, official start date, and you have again the 68 double-digit date numerology, as well as the 32 standard date numerology, which is just a mirror of the 23, which was this past Sunday. Also, another thing that I just noticed was the fact that it's 84 years and 262 days, another 262, like this 226. Incredible. So the main theme of my last decode was centered around that Iran drone strike, connecting to this whole theme of war and to anticipate something specifically on May 19th. And as some of you might be aware, the president of Iran, Ibrahim Raisi, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, but he died in a very mysterious helicopter crash, which was confirmed the following day, but the official death date was set at the 19th of May, this exact date that we were talking about. As you can see right here, died on May 19th. This was probably one of the wildest moments of watching the code unfold right in front of our eyes. So Just a couple quick pieces of code to add to this now that this event has come and gone. The former president of Iran's birthday is December 14th, 1960. So we're going to go ahead and type this code in and see what we're getting here. And we have something very powerful, which is this 24 standard date numerology. I also pointed this out the last time that I brought up Iran in April, over a month ago, in regards to when that drone strike against Israel happened. And I showed how the Gematria of Iran is the 42 and 24. So we have that right there. His birthday numerology is the 24. So it's so perfectly coded to be in this power position for this particular year, because we're in the year of 24, as well as in the Hebrew year of 5,784, which reduces to 24. So we're syncing the calendars here. And we also have, of course, Iran being this 24 by the code. And they were getting a lot of prana on the world stage just last month for being like the next domino to fall in this narrative of World War III. Of course, that whole Iran drone strike went to kind of be a nothing burger, but it really wasn't, now that we're seeing this effect of this particular ritual, this helicopter ritual of their former president. Then I noticed another code tied to this ritual which perfectly pivots into the next decode regarding the Ethereum ETFs, which is what you guys are mostly here for. And these ETFs were, of course, approved just yesterday on the 23rd of May. And if you look at the span of dates between the Iranian president's birthday and the death date, you're going to see another code here. So just 1 second, and I want to point this out, this 223 code that we're getting in here. And this is going to lead into the rest of today's decode. Now, some of you are aware of Skull and Bones, and they're considered the 322, the order 322. I'm going to show you right here the key picture that most of us are aware of, and we have this 322 code here. So anytime you're seeing the 223 or the 322, that's symbolic of death or Saturn, Father Time. But getting back to this, trying to keep it all simple, we have this president was 63 years old, which is the mirror of 36. Remember I said it was 36 days after the Iran drone strike. That's just one side note, but more important, we have this 22 weeks and 3 days, this 223 code. Now, speaking of the 36 that I brought up a moment ago, we know that Ethereum has 36 in Chaldean and Gematria, as well as Bitcoin. So our top two cryptos have this 36 or 36s code. And this isn't evil, by the way. It's tied back to carbon, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. But even more esoteric is it's actually tied back to krypton, the 36th element on the periodic table. This is where we get the word crypto from. Kryptos in Greek, it means hidden. And for those of you that are more interested in learning more about the decoding side of things, specifically for cryptocurrency, very soon, probably within the end of this month, I will be launching my newest project, which is the Crypto Decoding Blueprint. It's going to be about 15 comprehensive videos, very short and sweet, but packed with value. I'm really excited to release this. It will be also included as part of my recent decoding mastermind course. If you go over to my website, watersabove.com, you'll see here the decoding mastermind. This will be added to this project effectively for free. So I will be adding it to that. Anyone who has this already, you don't have any further action needed. It'll just show up automatically for you. And for those that want the best value out of this whole project, by investing in this decoding mastermind, you will be getting that crypto decoding blueprint included. And I'm really grateful for all your support. I've been hearing amazing feedback from everyone that's taken this course, and it's going to be leveled up so much by me adding this crypto decoding blueprint to it. So I'm really excited to get that out there. It's going to be going over a lot of this esoteric stuff tied to how I came to these realizations about how the code is tied in effectively in cryptocurrency and what will be the new economy. And that's really what we need to prepare for. And a lot of you here today have a tremendous amount of awareness when it comes to a lot of these things, but we're going to be diving deep specifically into the esoteric side of it, the symbolism, the etymology, the mythology, the astrology, the components and foundation that builds this whole system. So Anyways, I'll be giving you guys more updates on that later. But getting back to this 36 that was in the code of Ethereum and Bitcoin, and I just showed you with Krypton, these are all powerful connections here. But what we really want to focus on today is the 223 and the 322 code that I was talking about a moment ago, with the death of this Iranian president being 22 weeks and 3 days on the 63rd year. It's amazing how this is all coded in. And of course, just moments after this, we have these Ethereum ETFs approved, and I'm going to show you all the 322 codes tied to that. And it'll make a lot of sense now why we're seeing Ethereum behave the way that it is in the charts since this approval. It's not this instantaneously bullish, we're going to the moon boy energy, all right? Because it's symbolic. Remember, I told you before, 322 and 223 is symbolic of death. And death isn't bad. It's just part of the cycle of something. It's getting rid of the old and bringing in the new. We talked about this with the decode that I did of the Copenhagen Stock Exchange building, which we shared the date of that ritual over probably 2 years in advance, and it ended up aligning so perfectly. And I have a video on my channel. Go check it out if you are new here. That was mind-blowing to watch that event happen. And again, the symbolism there of the burning of the old stock exchange building is showing you out with the old, in with the new. The phoenix rises from the ashes. I believe even the word phoenix has this 36 code. There it is, 36 in Chaldean, the same cipher as Ethereum, 36. Keep this stuff in mind, everyone. So let me show you really quickly. The day the Ethereum network went live was effectively on July 30th, 2015, connecting that to yesterday, May 23rd. The day the ETF was officially approved, not including the end date, you get this 3,220 days. You remove the 0 in the rules of numerology, and you have the 322 code, the skull and bones code. So this is really powerful because if you're someone who's been following along our journey on this channel, you've heard me mention several times that our months in the Gregorian system are numbered improperly. For instance, October we consider to be the 10th month in the system, but that doesn't actually make sense because the prefix octo is 8, like octagon has 8 sides. Same goes for November. Novem is 9 in Latin. December, Deci is 10. Okay? So March is effectively the first month in the system. It's the month of Mars, root chakra, making April the second month and May the third month. So May being the third month and on the 22nd day, let's get back to that. Disregard this 5. This would make it 322. So it's another 322 connection. Now, perhaps this is a coincidence, but if you take from May 22nd, the true 322 date, and you connect it to Vitalik Buterin's last birthday, of course, Vitalik Buterin being the programmer of Ethereum back in 2013, you're going to see that these are separated by 3 months and 22 days. Another 322 code tied directly to Ethereum. How wild is that? From Vitalik's last birthday to May 22nd, the esoteric 322 date, which is also the day leaving 223 days in the year, the mirror, it's exactly 3 months and 22 days apart. And this was on the eve of the Ethereum ETF approvals. Basically within 24 hours of this, all skull and bones codes, which by the way is a symbol of death. Also, if we take from Vitalik's last birthday, January 31st, to the day of the Ethereum approval, ETF approval, you're going to see this 113. Well, 113 is the 30th prime number, and this is the literal day that Vitalik Buterin turned 30 years old. So this is symbolic of the Trinity post Saturn's return. And I can't get into that now because we want to stay on track in today's video, but it'll be stuff that I'm teaching in my Decoding Mastermind course. But for now, let's check in with these charts and see how things are going since this Ethereum ETF has been approved. And would you look at that? Shocker. We are flat, and we had our current microcycle high on the night of approval, but it was a very interesting liquidation ritual. Now let me just pull up the 5-minute chart. I'm going to turn off everything and just show you the candles here. So we have this big liquidity. I can't believe this. By the way, I'm looking at 5-minute candles and it's just unbelievable to watch. This was to just wreck leverage traders. And then this move to the upside was to do the same. So it was squeezed in both directions, went sideways for a little bit, and since then has started to break down. And now we're effectively back in the same support level that we were at since the initial breakout on May 20th. But this was around the time of the approvals, and we've traded to the downside since. Now, one quick note to make is that allegedly the Ethereum spot ETF won't actually launch and be listed on exchanges until around July or as late as August. And some analysts speculate it could launch as early as next month in June, so keep that in mind. Everything on this run-up that happened this week right here, notably the surge on May 20th, was all just speculation by traders, of course. And that's obvious now because of the way that ETH has been trading since these ETFs were approved yesterday. And until we see Ethereum close a weekly candle, important to note, weekly candle, firmly above the $4,000 level, this is just the typical buy the rumor, sell the news vibe. And one other thing to mention, checking in on this 5-day chart, is this level around $3,500 right here. So I want you guys to keep that level in mind, because if we start seeing ETH trading below that level, I suspect the same exact thing that happened to Bitcoin immediately after the Bitcoin ETF was approved. So if you guys remember that, if not, let's just check in, because that was very important structure and how that whole ritual went down. So we're going to go to the daily. And we have when the Bitcoin spot ETFs were approved on January 10th, you see what Bitcoin did on this day. That was the official approval date. And it happened after the traditional markets were closed, making the following day, January 11th, or the 111 Gregorian date, the official first day of the Bitcoin ETFs at launch, and when they were actively trading. So excuse me, this would have technically been the day of approval, and this was the day of launch. But you see this big wick to the upside. It's really fascinating when we look at the Ethereum chart. We're seeing a similar thing. Let me pull that up and have like a side-by-side comparison, just to make everything nice and simple and clean for everyone. I know you all appreciate it. So we're just looking at the side-by-side right now. Let me zoom in here a little bit further so you could kind of see the setup. And we have these 4-candle structure here. We have this 4-candle structure, and we're going to go by play. So as you can see, January 11th, the official launch date, Bitcoin sort of gassed out, and we had some bearish divergence forming. Let me pull up some of at least the RSI. And what I mean by that is you had your prices making higher highs whilst your RSI was making higher lows, bearish divergence, and then we had this whole event followed by a 20% correction over the following 12 days. And what is interesting is the initial date of approval, and then we got a big dump day to follow. And so far, Ethereum's looking pretty solid. I mean, we have had about a 6 to 7% pullback into today, or into this moment, effectively still a 7% correction if you're measuring from the top. But on the day of the following day after approval of the Bitcoin spot ETFs and launch of the ETFs, we saw a 7% candle close. So that's not what we've seen just yet. But again, we need the traditional markets to be open. We need to see how this weekly close comes in for the traditional markets, and effectively what goes down over the following days, because it is a full moon. And we'll be covering that in a moment. So it is looking eerily similar for Ethereum as well right now as it did back then with Bitcoin in January. And we'll have to see how these markets open up today and affect this. But it is a full moon. It's expected to see a correction around these times, especially with a solely narrative-driven pump that we got earlier this week, which was this event. Note, from the day that the Bitcoin ETFs were approved over to the bottom, it was about 12 full days with a 21% correction. So if we were to copy the same things from yesterday over 12 days, it brings us to around June 4th. And if we were to see a similar correction of about 21%, it would bring us right into $3,100 Ethereum by the first week of June. So I want you guys to take note of that. And I could show you the technical setup to support this very quickly. And it's as simple as just pulling a fib. So one moment, let me pull up this Ethereum chart. All right, so right now I'm just going to be pulling a simple Fibonacci retracement from this swing high back in mid-March down to this swing low right here. I'm going to double click this and I'm going to make sure that this setting is turned off. And you're going to see this 236 fib sitting at around $3,100. That is key. Okay, that's a crucial level, a crucial technical level. It's not Waters Above's opinion. One other thing to mention on the daily chart is we have some key moving averages sitting around this 3,200 to 3,300 level, so keep that in mind. 3,100 or a little bit lower is more of the extreme downside target, giving Bitcoin's behavior over the coming weeks, of course. And it's important I mention that so no one takes what I'm sharing out of context. Because if Bitcoin was also to correct, let's just say 20% from the recent microcycle top a couple days ago, then I would expect ETH to go even lower than 3,100. So remember, it's the Bitcoin show right now, and that's just the phase of the bull run we're in. It's not my opinion. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I'm just revealing to you the way that this market works. So here is what to expect next. Yesterday and today are effectively this month's full moon. And I want you to keep that in mind because it's typical that during a lunar phase, the energy could last up to 5 days after on average. So this full moon energy can easily extend up until like around May 28th. And in some instances, we could even extend further than that, depending on some other factors. But to keep things simple and easy to utilize, just keep this time frame between now and May 28th in mind and until the upcoming new moon on June 6th. All right. So that's really the time frame where we can still be very volatile for the traditional markets, which can absolutely impact the crypto market. Remember, what we just watched a couple days ago was isolated to Ethereum speculation. And that's why not all the altcoins followed suit. And that's also why today anything that's affected by Ethereum energetically is pulling back even more than Ether. So if you remember in my last video, I mentioned the significance of the 49 code. If you haven't watched that video, check it out. But if we take from 49 days after the 4/9 date, it's going to be ending up exactly into this time frame of late May. I believe this is the next crucial date to keep in mind. If I had to pick one date for you guys to focus on, it's May 28th, this upcoming Tuesday. All right, so write this down. I'm going to quickly go over the code. We have the Gregorian 4/9, 49 days until May 28th being the 149th day of the year. The number 49 with one giving it emphasis. This is more esoteric, which will also be 77 double-digit date numerology. And if we connect it back to the current Bitcoin all-time high daily close, it is 77 days apart. So we have 77 days leading into the 77 date numerology. And why is that significant? Because 7 times 7 is 49. So of course, 49 is 7 squared. So we have a lot of confluence here with this specific date aligned with this code. I'm not making this stuff up. This is a real event that really happened. And the last time you guys saw right in front of your eyes, when you have all these connections that are leading you with these numbers synchronized together, it's not a game. This is the energy that runs these markets, not the narratives. And just a reminder, one of the key 49 connections was talking about from Bitcoin's daily all-time high, daily close all-time high, which was on May 13th. And we brought up the fact that 49 days later from that date was our microcycle low, which was on May 1st. As above, so below. And in between all of this was the mythological character Satoshi Nakamoto's 49th birthday. So many 49 codes. Speaking of which, from Satoshi's 49th birthday, which was on April 5th, bringing it over to yesterday, including the end date, was effectively 49 days. So let me just quickly show you this. So 49 days since Satoshi's 49th birthday, and that was when the Ethereum ETF was approved. So it's incredible. So I'm looking out for the date of May 26th through May 28th, with emphasis on the 28th, to be powerful regarding this 49 code. Perhaps another drop into those dates, followed by a slight bounce maybe into the monthly close, and then another punch to the downside during the first week of June. Okay, remember what I'm saying here. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin retested the low 60K territory at least one more time, especially with how narrative driven these past couple of weeks have been, and ultimately how distracting they've been, especially with this GameStop euphoria a couple weeks ago. And as you can see today, like, this was all a trap. It's down over 70% from this top. You know, this was a bull trap, and this is essentially trading back into the same macro support levels that it's been at for the past 3 years. Again, don't let this distract you right now. We're in a crypto bull run that's about to enter its next phase, which is true price discovery for Bitcoin. And that's when things really get exciting, and when you see the real FOMO. Because what we watched go down in Q1 this year after the Bitcoin ETFs were approved was nothing compared to what's coming next over the next 6 months. And ultimately, even up till Q1 of 2025, if this extends out a little bit longer, which is expected. Because what we watched go down in Q1 was just narrative driven, and then we've been now in almost 100 days of sideways and down. So this, again, is important, to not get so sucked into the narrative stuff while it's happening, and to get positioned before it happens. So since we recapped the Ethereum TA, let's check in on Bitcoin quickly. We're going to be opening up this chart right here. I've been loving this chart because of how simple it is. And you'll see this 888 fib has been a clear resistance level going on for about 70 days now. We're officially on day 87 of this horizontal trading range. It'll officially be 3 months of trading in this horizontal range on the key date of May 28th that I just mentioned a little bit ago. So that's interesting. And something that I brought up in my prior videos in March is that, especially I made one in mid-March, I mentioned that I wouldn't be shocked if this horizontal trading range lasts for at least 100 days before Bitcoin breaks into true price discovery. And here we are. It'll officially be 100 days right after the new moon on June 7th. So we have the new moon on June 6th. By June 7th will be 100 days of this horizontal trading range after the Bitcoin ETFs were approved. And remember, when that was initially approved, everyone was just so ultra bullish off that narrative and thought we were going straight to 100K. And that would have been the least healthy thing to happen. So I just want to share with you like how I feel about this, but it's a recap of something that I've been talking about earlier this year. Is what we're watching right now is the healthiest thing that could have happened to this market. Stalling out in March and trading sideways with a mid-cycle correction, that was needed. Now that we've built some solid structure and we've had plenty of consolidation, and now we're gearing up for the next leg up in this market. And please know, for anyone who thinks I'm bearish or I've been bearish over these past couple months, that's not the case at all. I'm not picking sides here. I just know when a market is overheated and extreme greed becomes the sentiment and the FOMO kicks in, that it's clearly time for a correction and a boredom phase to wash out the weak hands. It's just how the market maker operates. And I'm not here picking sides in the process. I'm merely studying what the market maker, how the market maker maneuvers, so I can take advantage of the opportunities. That's all. But for now, we've been sideways and down for almost 3 months. I am now shifting towards an expectation that by mid-June and especially July and August, we should be seeing expansion in Bitcoin and therefore the entire crypto market as a whole. But please know, I do feel the next phase will be led by Bitcoin and a surge in Bitcoin dominance, which could last for about 2 months. So the timing of this will start when Bitcoin breaks its current cycle high with a macro candle close above this level here, effectively trading into 75,000 and so on. And then you'll start to see Bitcoin dominance head towards 60%. And this could happen before the July new moon throughout September. So we're really close to entering this next phase, and it's likely to start within the month of June, trading into July. So checking in on this Bitcoin chart, it has a very interesting area around the 65K territory. Let me show you that. And I'm going to be turning off these drawings, and we have some of our key moving averages. And the reason I bring up 65K is because that is where the 55 simple moving average is at currently. That's a very important level, which is actively getting crossed by this 34 EMA. And that cross initiating puts this EMA band in bullish posture. So that's awesome. But remember, everything that's been going on lately has been narrative driven. All right. A lot of this volume has even been declining, which is crazy to watch how much this price can go up just purely with leverage. All right. This is leverage. Not good. And the market maker knows this, and that's what they're here to do, to take your money. That's why they're liquidating people. That's why they did that liquidation ritual yesterday on Ethereum, right around the time of the ETF approvals. So if Bitcoin cannot hold this 65K level, I believe we'll drop to the low 60K territory fairly quickly. So keep that in mind. Any daily closes below 55 SMA in alignment with a daily close below this May 16th candle at 65,200. Let's just call it any daily closes below 65,000 would be a sign of weakness, and to expect further continuation to the downside to the levels here in this chart, which are 63 to 61, in that range between the 236 fib and the 382 fib. And now that this has been building up for 3 months now, this is effectively the most important horizontal range to keep an eye on. And this 382 to 236 level, as I mentioned with Ethereum, is really powerful for Bitcoin. So this would only be about a 6 to 9% drop from where we're at right now. And if that was to happen, just that 6 to 9% drop for Bitcoin, trading back into the 61, 62K area, then I'd expect Ethereum to come down to that target I shared earlier that was $3,100. The same thing that happened after the Bitcoin ETF was approved. And of course, this would push the entire market down, the entire altcoin market. And I believe if that happens over the next 2 weeks, it's likely that that's the finality of this correction phase and we move into a recovery for the rest of the altcoin market. And as for upside, until we can break above 7,100 on a macro candle close, we're still just ranging. So we need to keep this in mind. Until Bitcoin breaks above 71,000 and ETH breaks above 4,000 with macro candle closes, we're just ranging, building structure, and we're in the final moments of this corrective phase before the next leg up. Now let's quickly check in on XRP, share a couple thoughts. And the one thing that's become noticeable lately for XRP is incredibly low volume across the board. If I was to look at this and zoom out, you'd see a declination of volume has been going on now for a full year. And we're essentially at record low volatility. This has been so sideways and boring for so long that the market maker has accomplished one of their main goals, which is to bore you out of a market. And of course, here at Waters Above, we consistently say, buy the blood, buy the boredom. So this is absolutely still in accumulation territory, but there's been little to no update in the chart over the past couple of months. So again, we're still just ranging and coiling up more and more, which is in most cases with similar structures. We see the thing that follows this is an explosive breakout. Similarly to what happened in the beginning of 2017, right over here. We had very little volume trading up until this moment, and then we just popped off. All right. So we want to keep this in mind, a reminder about that same phase, because what Bitcoin is doing right now is also very similar to 2017. And we've covered this in earlier videos. And as I mentioned, I took a look at this whole setup, and when Bitcoin entered true price discovery, was when XRP had the real breakout. So we need Bitcoin to actually break out past that 75 into 80K territory to see the alt market really wake up and start putting on those crazy gains that you typically see at the beginning phase of an alt season. And at this point, I wouldn't even be shocked if the SEC case is resolved at the same moment that Bitcoin starts breaking out above 75,000. That would be classic and obviously scripted. So I'm going to wrap up today's video there because, as mentioned, we don't have any new data to work with on the XRP chart. It's still kind of trapped in this horizontal trading range at the low 50-cent support. And I've been sharing these levels now for weeks. Until we get any updates, I have to stick with that. But I revealed to you how the energy works in this market and what it'll likely take to see a surge in the XRP price, as well as with Bitcoin's entering price discovery moment. And it's pretty obvious if you look at Bitcoin trading today at 67,000. We had a prior cycle all-time high back here in November of 2021 at 69,000, and we've been trapped at this area between 60 and 70K, unable to break out for 3 months now. So it's obvious we are not clearly in price discovery yet. But I gave you the levels, I gave you the timeline, and even some dates around the corner and what energy to expect in these markets during those dates. Between now and the first week of June could be our final shakeout to the downside before recovery. And if you're new to these markets and not exposed at all to some of these altcoins, well, now is not the time to play the waiting game. There's plenty of opportunities here in the altcoins. So in my next video, I'll be sharing some of the plays for the next phase of this bull run that I'm personally interested in. And then until then, stay tuned for my new release, the Crypto Decoding Blueprint, which is set to be released very soon. Make sure to sign up to my email list at watersabove.com if you'd like to receive any updates on the pre-sale launch. And I'll be catching some of you this Sunday in my next Red Pill podcast over at patreon.com/watersabove for the Mastermind community. And I'm wishing you all an amazing rest of your week in the Matrix. Much love.